The courtroom buzzed with whispers, but the key witnesses remained silent. Loyalty weighed heavier than truth. The air was thick with anticipation, but no words broke through the wall of silence surrounding Diddy's fate. The trial had officially begun. Cameras flashed as Diddy entered the courtroom, his expression calm, unreadable. Outside, the media and public clamored for answers, expecting fireworks. Yet, inside, those closest to him, the allies, the friends, the inner circle, chose silence. Their loyalty, fortified by years of shared history and unspoken rules, held firm against the pressures of justice. Behind the heavy courtroom doors and the flashing cameras, a quiet battle raged. Diddy's inner circle was bound not only by friendship but by fear of losing status, career, and safety. Gratitude for past favors mingled with the instinct to protect one another, creating a fortress of silence. Lawyers whispered strategy, the media speculated endlessly, but none of Diddy's closest allies stepped forward to speak. Faith Evans, once a star collaborator, sat among the silent crowd. Her eyes held the weight of many unspoken stories. Despite the swirling rumors, she chose discretion over speculation. In a rare moment, she acknowledged her loyalty, not blind, but cautious, rooted in gratitude and a desire to protect the fragile balance of their world. Her silence was both shield and statement. Rumors swirled like a storm outside the courtroom walls. The public demanded answers, journalists pressed for testimonies. Yet, inside, the tension was palpable. Associates wrestled with their consciences, stay loyal and risk public condemnation, or break silence and face personal fallout. The unspoken rules of the industry made the choice clear to most: silence at all costs. Just as the courtroom seemed to reach a boiling point, a key witness unexpectedly refused to cooperate. The silence wasn't just strategic anymore, it was impenetrable. The courtroom murmured in disbelief. This refusal intensified the frustration and uncertainty, casting a shadow over the pursuit of truth and justice. Lawyers quickly regrouped, adjusting their strategies to face this unexpected obstacle. The media frenzy outside the courthouse only grew louder, spotlighting the seemingly unbreakable silence that cloaked Diddy's allies. Behind closed doors, whispers of fear and uncertainty mingled with defiant loyalty. Despite the chaos swirling around him, Diddy maintained a calm, composed demeanor in court. His stoic presence contrasted sharply with the turmoil that rippled through the public and his inner circle. The fortress of silence stood firm, at least for now. In the shadows, a confidential source hinted at a secret powerful enough to shatter the silence. But the question lingered: who among Diddy's loyal circle would be the first to dare break it? Loyalty isn't free. It costs silence, sacrifice, and sometimes, safety. Jay-Z and Beyoncé's deliberate silence in the face of Diddy's mounting scandal raised more questions than answers. Industry insiders whispered about strategic alliances rather than mere friendship, alliances forged to survive, not necessarily to protect. Inside exclusive circles, Usher wrestled with his own dilemma. Mentored by Diddy from early in his career, he owed much of his success to the mogul's influence. But the escalating scandal threatened to taint that legacy. Torn between gratitude and the growing need for discretion, Usher stayed quiet, his silence a reflection of the unspoken rules that govern Hollywood's power dynamics. Amidst this charged atmosphere, Janice, Diddy's mother, stepped into the public eye with unwavering support. Her statements embodied the protective instincts of family loyalty, complicating the narrative for outsiders. She portrayed a mother's unconditional love, shielding her son while the world watched with skepticism. Within Diddy's inner circle, tension simmered beneath the surface. Doubts about the future grew. Some questioned the cost of their silence, wondering how long loyalty could survive when it meant ignoring justice. The fear of losing everything, status, career, friendships, was a powerful deterrent. In a private conversation overheard by a reporter, two close associates expressed the strain of their loyalty. One confided in the other about sleepless nights, the moral weight of silence crushing their conscience. This intimate moment revealed cracks in the seemingly unbreakable bond. The media amplified these whispers, framing celebrity silence as complicity. Public opinion began to shift, pressuring the stars to reconsider their positions. Yet, the protective shield around Diddy remained intact, bolstered by Janice's steadfast presence. The chapter closed with Janice reaffirming her son's innocence in a heartfelt interview, reinforcing the narrative of family loyalty standing tall amidst controversy. But beneath the surface, a private message leaked, hinting that not everyone in Diddy's circle was as loyal as they appeared. The first seeds of betrayal had been planted. The red carpet, and the radiant smiles of Cassie, who once rose to the pinnacle of the entertainment world. But behind that shimmering curtain lies a different reality, filled with pressure and hidden fears. Cassie had made a decision: silence was no longer an option, and the truth had to be exposed, no matter the cost. She walked into the courtroom with steely resolve, her eyes no longer hesitant but filled with strength. Cassie's testimony was more than just recounting events, it revealed the secrets behind the glittering facade, the invisible control, the subtle threats, and the feeling of being trapped in a world where power and money dictated every move. She spoke of moments of loneliness, abandonment, and the inability to find a voice for herself. This was not a story about fame but a survival battle fought in the shadows. Facing her greatest fears on the witness stand, Cassie courageously unveiled the complex relationships and psychological pressures she endured. Each word struck directly at the wall of silence that had long been built. The courtroom atmosphere grew suffocating with tension as all eyes fixed on her. Inside Diddy's inner circle, the reactions were chaotic but discreet. Some showed shock and confusion, while others chose denial or evasion. Loyalty was severely tested, sparking silent confrontations and veiled warnings. The silence that once was their weapon now became a veil hiding their instability. The climax of the chapter arrived as Cassie's words echoed throughout the courtroom, creating an irreversible turning point. The truth she laid bare shook not only the court but also the media and fans. Allies began to question whether they still had reason to keep silent. After these tense moments, Diddy's associates began facing their own realities. Quiet exchanges, anxious glances, and growing doubt spread through the group. Whispers of possible defections and betrayals circulated, threatening the once unbreakable unity. The seemingly invincible fortress now trembled. The chapter closes on a high note of suspense. Someone from within the trusted circle prepares to reveal a bombshell secret that could bring down the entire group. No one knows who it will be, but this looming revelation casts a dark shadow over Diddy's future and those who once stood loyally by his side. The illusion of unbreakable loyalty began to crumble quietly, like the slow fracture of ice beneath unseen pressure. What once had seemed an ironclad bond between Diddy and his inner circle was now strained by the weight of secrets too heavy to carry alone. It started with a whisper, an accidental slip, a message sent to the wrong person, a moment of weakness in a fortress built on silence. The leaked private message arrived like a sudden crack in a glass wall, sharp and unsettling. Its contents were enough to unsettle even the most steadfast allies. Whispers started to ripple through the ranks, cautious glances replaced smiles, and trust gave way to suspicion. The very foundation of the group began to shake. Jay-Z, whose loyalty to Diddy had long been a pillar in this intricate web of alliances, began to pull back. His once frequent public appearances alongside Diddy became fewer and more calculated. Industry insiders noticed his subtle distancing, careful phrasing in interviews, absence from key events, and an unmistakable coolness that had never been there before. It wasn't a loud betrayal, but it was the first crack visible to the outside world. Within the inner circle, tensions escalated rapidly. The pressure of maintaining silence in the face of growing public scrutiny was suffocating. Some members whispered in private, weighing their options carefully. The question on everyone's lips was no longer should we stay loyal, but how long can we survive this loyalty? As paranoia set in, long-held friendships felt the strain, revealing fault lines beneath the carefully curated facades. The struggle between self-preservation and allegiance became a silent war. Meetings once filled with camaraderie now felt like strategic negotiations. Eyes darted, words were measured, and hidden agendas surfaced. For some, the cost of loyalty, career risks, public backlash, personal safety, was becoming unbearable. Then came the moment that shook everything. A trusted insider threatened to testify against Diddy. The threat was not vague, it was a clear ultimatum that sent the inner circle into chaos. The camp that had once operated with seamless unity was thrown into disarray. Damage control became urgent, every move scrutinized, every whisper amplified. Behind the scenes, friendships that had lasted decades began to fray. Secret conversations became a currency, alliances shifted like sand beneath their feet. Trust, the bedrock of their bond, began to dissolve. The pressure cooker of fear and ambition forced many to reconsider their paths, torn between loyalty to a man and loyalty to themselves. Diddy, known for his calm and commanding presence, began to show cracks. The usually unflappable mogul found himself facing an onslaught not just from legal battles but from the very people who had once been his closest allies. The walls that once seemed impenetrable now showed signs of crumbling. The trial that was meant to prove his innocence started to expose vulnerabilities far beyond the courtroom. As the public watched, the quiet unraveling of his empire unfolded. What had been hidden in shadows now crept into the light, threatening to consume everything. Just as the storm seemed at its peak, an unexpected betrayal tore through the inner circle, a betrayal so profound it sent shockwaves that echoed far beyond the trial room. Trust was shattered in an instant, and the fragile world Diddy had built began to collapse. Truth rarely comes quietly. It fights its way through layers of deception, walls of silence, and the shadows cast by fear. For Cassie, her courageous decision to speak out had ignited a spark, a slow-burning fire that began to challenge the carefully maintained silence of Diddy's empire. The courtroom buzzed with renewed energy. Cassie's testimony, raw and unfiltered, resonated far beyond the polished wood and marble walls. It was a call to others, those still shackled by loyalty and fear, to reconsider the cost of silence. Slowly, hesitantly, whispers of new witnesses began to surface. People who once hid in the shadows now dared to peek into the light. The momentum shifted. The once unbreakable fortress of silence started to crack, as more voices joined the chorus demanding justice. Each new testimony chipped away at the carefully constructed narrative that had protected Diddy and his inner circle for so long. But the battle was far from over. Janice, Diddy's mother, found herself thrust into the eye of the storm. Caught between defending her son and facing uncomfortable truths, she became a symbol of the complicated nature of family loyalty, where love and denial collide. Her public statements were heartfelt, fiercely protective, but also revealed the personal toll the scandal was exacting. Inside the courtroom, tensions escalated. The divide between loyalty and justice deepened, creating fractures that seemed impossible to mend. Each side fought fiercely, words becoming weapons, testimonies like battle cries in a war where the stakes were more than just reputations, they were lives. A dramatic confrontation unfolded, exposing layers of deceit and fear. The air grew thick with emotion, the weight of years of silence pressing down on everyone present. Public opinion shifted rapidly as the world watched the truth fight to break free. Diddy's influence, once towering and untouchable, began to wane. The power of silence was challenged in ways no one had anticipated. Allies found themselves at a crossroads, forced to make choices that would define their futures. Just as the trial seemed to reach its crescendo, a shocking revelation tore through the proceedings. It was a bombshell that threatened to upend everything. Questions about trust, betrayal, and the true cost of loyalty now hung heavy in the air, waiting for answers. When loyalty shatters, the fallout reshapes lives and legacies in ways that can never be undone. The courtroom was electric with tension, every eye searching for the next revelation that could bring down the empire built on silence and power. The unexpected testimony of a former close ally struck like a thunderclap. It was a betrayal so profound, so personal, that it sent shockwaves through Diddy's inner circle and the wider entertainment world. The walls that once held secrets now echoed with truths that no one could ignore. The man who had once stood shoulder to shoulder with Diddy, sharing victories and setbacks, now sat on the witness stand, his voice steady but heavy with regret. He recounted moments once hidden behind the glamour, the whispered threats, the veiled intimidation, and the unbearable pressure to conform to a code of silence. His words peeled back the layers of loyalty, revealing a world where power came at a steep price. Allies scrambled to reposition themselves, some revealing motivations driven by survival, others by regret or guilt. The carefully balanced alliances unraveled rapidly, exposing fractures that had been hidden beneath years of loyalty. Quiet conversations turned into open confrontations, and the once unbreakable bonds showed signs of irrevocable damage. Diddy, once a symbol of unbreakable power, faced the unraveling of his empire. The cost of silence and loyalty came crashing down around him, forcing a reckoning not just with the law, but with the people he once trusted most. His calm facade cracked under the pressure, revealing the weight of isolation and betrayal. Betrayals surfaced in sharp, cutting words and quiet, resentful glances. Regrets weighed heavily on those who had stayed silent for too long, and hard truths demanded confrontation. Loyalties dissolved like mist under the harsh light of justice and consequence. Friends became adversaries, trust was replaced by suspicion. The final moments of the trial brought explosive revelations that changed everything. The courtroom held its breath as new evidence came to light, documents, recordings, and testimonies that painted a complex picture of control, manipulation, and the desperate need for survival in a ruthless world. Lives hung in the balance as the courtroom drama reached its emotional and moral peak. Justice, complicated and incomplete, began to take shape amid the chaos. The judge's gavel struck with finality, but the echoes of the trial would linger far beyond the walls of the courthouse. Outside, the entertainment world reacted with shock and disbelief. The legacy of Diddy and his inner circle was forever altered, the scars of betrayal and truth leaving marks that time could not easily heal. The public grappled with a narrative that was no longer about fame and fortune but about power, loyalty, and the human cost hidden behind the scenes. As the dust settled, those involved faced new realities. Some sought redemption, others retreat. The bonds that once defined them were broken, replaced by the uncertain promise of change. The story closed with a lingering question, a whisper that the battle for truth and redemption might not be over. Loyalties had shattered, but the echoes of their consequences would continue to resonate long after the final gavel. The fight for justice and healing had only just begun.